Am I recording?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody was recording. I'm like, what is going on? Well, hello, hello. We are just a couple of days away until we enter into the horse month, which is my favorite month, elementally speaking. Nothing to do with the weather in Arizona, but um, so welcome and thank you for joining and spending your Monday evening with me. Again, if you're new to the BaZi Talk, you can always go back to my YouTube channel to scope out all the previous presentations. And if this is your first time joining us, I always like to encourage those to maybe to watch the previous two or three videos and then kind of come into this new month because everything is built upon the previous talk. But if you've been with me for a while, welcome back. If you get an opportunity to just use your chat box to share a little bit about the snake month, ooh, there was a lot going on in May. But I love the energy of the horse month. It reminds me a lot of this beautiful quote that I kind of have all over my place. I have it in my office. I've written about it in, previous blogs and articles, and I've shared it. And it's just a beautiful quotation that summarizes the gift of June. And it talks about just, the epitome of the sun. We just came out of the snake month, which is the candle month, right? Yin fire element, like the candle. And now we are approaching the horse month that symbolizes the energy and the epitome of the sun. And so let's go ahead and move into the theme of this month. On June 5th, so in a couple of days, we will shift into a new cycle and it's going to be water horse. Okay. For those that have been following BaZi for a while, June is always the horse month. Okay. Just like June is always June, but the element associated with the horse is it changes every year. So sometimes it's wood horse, metal horse, right? Et cetera, et cetera. But June of 2025, it's water horse. So we want to pay attention to the meaning of this yang water element. We often compare this to the ocean. For those people who were born on a yang water day, we describe them to hold sort of this image of like the ocean full of energy. They have strong presence. There's a bigness to them because it's associated with the water element. They're often described to be wise and deeply spiritual, the people who are very curious. They're always looking for deeper meaning in life, kind of depth, right? And but they also have characteristics about them that is a bit impulsive, they can get preoccupied or easily distracted. And what I mean by that is not all yang water people, but most yang water people tend to either stay too stuck in the past. So they're always ruminating about the past, kind of this melancholic feeling of, oh, the good old days kind of a thing. And then some yang water people tend to look too much ahead, uh, out into the future. So they're always, everything that they do in their goals and action plan is all about planning for the future, very, very far out in the future. So yang water is a reminder about the need to be fully present in the current moment. I have met some really badass yang water people, clients of mine that have been very, very intentional in working on just being fully present. It's not easy. One of them actually, it reminded me what she said, which is very common because it's hard to believe it's June. I feel like as you're getting older, time just kind of goes by so quickly. And I had made a comment like that, similar to that a few years ago. And she said, you wouldn't have that feeling if you made every day very intentional. And I was like, whoa, that is so wise, right? And so I think that Yang water with the energy of this coming June is a beautiful reminder for us because there's just been so much energy, especially coming out of the dragon year, right? When things just felt heavy and tensiony. So when we come into the new year, we're just so ready to move forward and get things done and start accomplishing goals that we are too revved up, and Yang water coming in sort of the middle of the Gregorian calendar year as a reminder to say, hey, are you stopping to smell the roses, right? And popular Yang water people are these people, okay? So you can read that for yourself. But the horse is the fifth month of the solar calendar, okay? So even though all of us kind of in the Western world, we're thinking we're halfway through 2025. We're not quite there yet. Okay, so we are still in the upper half of 2025. Like I said, the horse symbolizes the most powerful fire element. It is also associated with the emotion of joy and of the heart. Okay, so it's a continuation from the energy of May. And a little later on, I want to talk about the theme of 2025 June, which is the calm after the storm. So we'll highlight that here in a second. So I was thinking about how can I visually share with you what the horse means, you know? So I thought to myself, the most powerful visual depiction of fire is like a rocket launching into the sky, right? It takes so much fuel and energy and momentum and power. And the direction of fire is straight up. Okay. So the energy of water is downward. Okay. So imagine June 2025, you're kind of like in this strange dynamic of up and down. And the ocean energy also has that energy of up and down by way of the movement of the waves in the ocean. It kind of goes up and down and up and down. But the horse itself is all about that upward motion, just like the rocket. So imagine we're coming into, as we're getting closer and closer to June 5th, you probably already feel this, okay? But once we officially land on June 5th, you probably have that sensation of just wanting to fly, if you will. So here's the month, okay? And it goes until July 7th, all right? So a little bit more than 30 days. The Yang water snake, sorry, why did I say snake there? Whoops. Can you see my screen? I think I did something. Let me see. Let me fix this. Horse. All right, there we go. All right, so let's come back. And I wanted to break down the emotions related to these elements. June is going to be a very interesting time. Not that last month wasn't interesting, but June is interesting on its own for many reasons. For example, right? The energy between water and fire. If you know anything about the five elements, they are actually in a destructive relationship or a controlling cycle, because in the natural way that the elements work, water extinguishes fire, right? So it puts out fire. And when you put water on top of fire, the fire gets a lot more animated, right? It gets activated and stimulated. For those that have learned Flying Star Feng Shui, for example, if you recall, using the controlling cycle is actually not for curing negative energy. It's actually used to stimulate positive energy because there's just so much energy there. And then when you look at the emotion related to fire and water, it's literally the opposite end. You have joy, which is the highest, well, it's not highest, but that's also related to love, which is the highest vibration when you're looking at the frequency of energy. And then water, which is also associated with spirituality, okay, and the mysteries of life, is also related to fear of the mystery, fear of the uncertainty. And so you're kind of like sandwiched between these two dynamics, okay? So the way sometimes I describe this, it's like you're in the middle of a ping pong game or a tennis match where you're kind of like this way, that way, this way, that way. So our moods, okay, and our thought process can sometimes like when we wake up, we can feel energized and happy and optimistic. And by the end of the day, we just feel fatigued and depressed and pessimistic. And we're like, what is going on with me? I feel hormonal. I feel like I don't have a good grip, right, on my emotions. So what am I trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you that energetically, that is the invitation. And so you as the person, the human will, you're going to have to implement different types of practices, different types of reminders to hold yourself accountable to not get whiplashed by the movement of the energy, which is the too extreme end. Another way to describe it is kind of like being in the middle of the yin and the yang dynamic, right? So imagine it's like it's daytime and nighttime. It's like living in Alaska in the middle of the summertime. It's time to go to bed, but outside it's still bright and sunshiny and you're confused, right? It disrupts our circadian rhythm and it affects everything. So energetically, elements are a lot like that. And so this is just a good reminder to, at least for the next couple of days, right, before we officially enter into the horse month, to just get a quick assessment to be like, am I cool? Do I feel grounded? Or am I just feeling extra out of sorts, cranky, a little bit more irritated, triggered, for example? That means I don't have a good handle of my mind body. So that would be your homework for the next couple of days before we enter into the new month. Okay. So the general theme of June, like I said, is the calm after a storm. I know here in Arizona, we just got some random, pouring down rain yesterday, which hasn't happened in over 100 years to get rain on January 1st or on June 1st. And so just kind of imagine, and then I have a lot of, you also watch from different parts of the country where you get hurricanes and things like that. So I want you to visualize that as a metaphor, okay? When things are disruptive, right? When things are busy, when there are lots and lots of changes and unexpected things happening in your life, it just creates this energy. It's exciting, but it's also disruptive. It's cool and fun, but also a bit stressful. But imagine once the plan starts to be, put in place and you're getting a good handle on your routine or the flow or the newness, like starting a new job. It's kind of stressful, but it's good, because it's a new opportunity, but I don't know these people. I don't know my role. But then after a while, you get kind of comfortable, familiar, and then you begin to develop that rhythm, right? So think of June is a bit like that, okay? Or instances, if you recall, when you get into a disagreement with someone, when you're right in the middle of that disagreement, it's just irritating, it's annoying, makes you just want to walk away or throw things, right? But then there's the reconciliation of like meeting of the minds, coming back together, compromising, loving, forgiving, accepting, right? That feeling after the disruption, after the disagreement. So just kind of remember all of these examples that I'm giving you, because that's what June is all about, okay? So it's that feeling of after the storm, after all the energy, the anxiety and the stress and the ruminating and not sleeping well and all of that, what happens afterwards, okay? So I wanted to bring a little wisdom from I Ching, which I don't talk a lot very often because it's a very complicated and very, very sophisticated system. But in I Ching is talking about it's a kind of divination. We use it as a way to give us answers in life. But we can also learn a lot the meaning of these lines. So these lines are just simply yin and yang. The yin line are the broken lines, the solid line is the yang, and you can formulate different combination of trigram. So trigrams is 3 lines. Hexagram means 6 lines. So because this month it's a water fire month, so water is on top. This is a water trigram, and on the bottom, this is a fire trigram. So for those that have been studying Chinese metaphysics for a while, you will recognize this symbol. But a lot of Western folks, when they start to learn or hear about feng shui, for example, you may mistaken fire and water, like I said, because they're in a controlling cycle, that it's actually a bad thing. Okay, it's so bad that even HGTV would have segments of feng shui consultants talking about how you should never position your stove, which is a fire element, to face the sink, the kitchen sink, which is a water element. By the way, nothing to do with that. But again, when you're a much more serious student of Chinese metaphysics, you actually understand that the relationship between water and fire is incredibly complementary, and there is a great gift in that. It's also very similar to if you practice Chinese medicine. Okay, the balancing of water and fire, which is the heart, your actual cardiovascular health, and your kidney energy are also about complementary to each other, which also helps to promote overall well-being. For example, if you went to a Chinese medicine doctor and you say, Doc, I have high blood pressure, I have heart palpitation, or maybe something's up with my blood, anemia, low iron, etc. Those are all fire-related, diagnoses. Chinese medicine doctor will not actually zoom in on the fire. They'll actually zoom in on your kidneys, okay? Because the kidney is the water. So maybe your heart, the fire element is too strong and your kidney is very weak. And kidney governs our adrenals, our cortisol, the will, our ability to replenish and rest, how we regulate stress, for instance. And so maybe your kidney chi is too weak, so they actually have to help promote the kidney meridians in order to temper down the sort of the explosion or the overabundance of fire. So water and fire are not enemies, okay? So there is actually and I'm putting them in quotation, a kind of harmony between water and fire, but there is tension, okay? So this hexagram is actually called, like I said, water over fire is hexagram number 63. And in Chinese, we call it after completion. So again, this is a very similar idea to what happens after the storm. When everything settles, the dust settles. And when things settle, you kind of have a moment to breathe and see, okay, what's left? What's next? What's happening? What is my current state, right? So the wisdom of hexagram 63 is that it does represent a period of change and it does bring conflict, right? I know some people love change and they've vocalized that to me, and I always have to remind people you only love change when you're in control, okay? But change can happen at any time, but we have BaZi to help us understand the exact timing of when change does occur. And that's called clash, okay, which I'll talk a little bit more here. And so this coming June, it is going to be some tension, all right? But I don't want you to get sucked into the tension, by way of your ego or because you're tired and already stressed out going into the month of the horse, that you're going to relate the tension in your life as a bad thing, okay? You have to ask yourself, take a step back and actually ask yourself, what is this tension about? Maybe this tension is coming to the surface because I need to pay attention to it. Something about this is demanding me to address in order to transform something, okay? And it is the potential for transformation. But there's also, a bit of a warning, if you will, caution against imbalance. Again, remember the yang water I said is impulsive? So what happens when we have knee-jerk reaction to things? And what kind of society do we live in? We live in a quick fix society, when we have discomfort or inconveniences, we want to fix it right away. We want to get out of it as quickly as possible. We want the solution today, right now, now, right? But that's not favorable. Okay, but the energy of yang water is going to influence us to actually rev that up. So imagine, ask yourself, am I an impulsive person? So if your answer is yes, I'm naturally impulsive, that means going into June, that's going to rev up even more. Now you may say, Jen, I'm not an impulsive person. I'm pretty logical and measured. Well, guess what? The yang water is going to actually hint and push you a little bit to be impulsive. That's why what you do between today and June 5th is so important in terms of getting rest, recalibrating your routine, clearing out your old tasks. You don't want to be bringing all of the jujus into the month of June because it's only going to add to the intensity of the month. Okay, so have you been feeling any restless energy, particularly after this double snake, right? So if you tuned in to last month's BaZi talk, there's so much going on in the snake month, right? So are you feeling restless? Are you feeling a sense like in the pit of your gut, like something is about to change, like there's some kind of imminent something or another that you're feeling in your mind, or maybe it's showing up in your dreams, etc. Now, this is really important, especially if you are under clash in 2025, okay? Or if you're also about to transition into a new 10-year luck cycle. So this is really important. If you have your BaZi chart, you haven't had your BaZi right in a while, the 10-year luck change is very critical because it symbolizes the ending and beginning of something. It's just like when you finish watching a movie and then one episode and you start a new episode, right? Or you finish one chapter, you're starting to read a new chapter. There's a very, very strong energy that kind of pushes you. And you feel that in every way. A lot of people get really tired. A lot of people suddenly feel their mood kind of dims a little bit, and they're like, what's going on? They get sick, for instance, like they have a lot more colds or they get flus, some kind of disruption because you are energetically about to enter into a new cycle. So this is really important. But my invitation to you is if the answer is yes to any of the stuff that I just said, then you need to have a come to Jesus with yourself and be honest and ask yourself, how do you handle stress and uncertainty? Okay. If you're healthy, you're grounded, you have a good support system, for example, you probably can move through this tension pretty well, with some grace, some perspective, being able to take a breath. But if you don't, then June might be a bit of a wonker of a month. Okay, so maybe part of your homework the next couple of days is to just meditate on this. Okay, and just really honestly connecting with yourself, because this will give you a sense of your current flow state, meaning your current energy state. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the BaZi stars for the horse month. Again, you are under clash if you have any rat signs in your 4 pillars, right? You're born in the year of the rat or the month or the hour of the rat. Again, the day is the most powerful kind of clash because this is on your day pillar. It affects not just you, but it affects your peripheral world. So your children, your spouse, your career, your body, your health, etc. So this is a much more like a bigger kind of clash, and you need to have your BaZi chart. You need to look at your BaZi chart in order to see if you were born on the day of the rat. Again, if you have any amulets that you have had in the past, the correct element to carry this month is the goat. Okay, we prefer the jade in 3D. We don't want images. We'd rather have it in 3D, meaning something that you can actually touch and hold, put it in your purse, put in your wallet, put in your backpack, put it in your car, etc., etc. Okay, but most importantly, because when you're under clash, that means you're more energetically sensitive to people. You know, you're like, and some people mistake that as I'm being really empathic. You know, I feel everybody's energy. Okay, fine. Maybe you are empathic, but people who are under clash are also empathic because you're more susceptible to energy. So you're more susceptible to other people's energy. And most importantly, you're susceptible to the feng shui energy of your home. Okay, so fix the feng shui of your home if you are under clash. So I don't know if you know who this is, but this is the former FBI director, James Comey. And I had his chart back in 2019 because of what was going on in the administration at the time. I always like to check everybody's BaZi chart. And I flagged James Comey because I knew that he was going to be in trouble because you see, James Comey, he was born in the year of the rat, month of the rat, and day of the rat. He has a triple rat. And he is already into the luck of the horse. So from age 58 to 68, my goodness, this is a triple clash, okay? And I only briefly saw this. I'm not very super educated on what's going on right now, but I only saw a brief headline that he kind of came back into surface because I'm not sure what happened. He retired or went into hiding, went underground. I'm not really sure. But suddenly, out of the blue, James Comey comes back out and makes headlines. Okay. And I was like, oh, that's the clash. Okay. So when you're under clash, you can't hide. Okay. But when you're under clash, you have to be careful because everything is very sensitive. Right. And so he is obviously in the public light, right? And there's a lot at stake, you know, in his position and relationships and things like that. Well, guess what? 2026, the year of the horse, right? Because next year is the year of the horse. He's gonna have a sextuplet trash clash. I don't even know how to say it. Clash times 6. And then imagine June of 2026, he will have clash times 9. So if I was advising him, I'd be like, Jimmy, can we just hide? Because that might be the safest bet. Okay, so remain to be seen. Keep a lookout. If you see something and I don't catch it, please send them to me because I like to know these kinds of things. So there's a lot of clash going on with him. And clash is very disruptive. It can be a good thing, right? Because it means you can elevate your life, you can run into new opportunities, but clash is also destructive, right? It can create chaos. And this kind of clash with a triple clash, it means everybody's houses are on fire. Okay. So our favorite person, Blake Lively, okay, is going to have a double clash this month. I haven't seen anything of late, at least in May of last month. Maybe I'm just not looking or whatever. But she's going to hit the news again come the horse month because she is already in her 10-year clash since the start of age 35 to 45. This energy is only going to magnify as we get closer and closer to 2026, because that is the year of the horse. Okay, so that's why she's experiencing a lot of disruption, right? And again, public people have a different persona than private folks. Like us little people, because there's a lot more at stake. There's a lot more eyes, right? Controversies are much more dramatic, right? Because of the media and things of that sort. But again, if I was advising Blake, like she was my client, not looking at her picture, I would say, honey, let's just calm down, keep things simple, and maybe it's a beautiful time to let some things go so that new things can begin. But maybe not. Maybe not for Blake. Anyways, I love clash. All right. I know I sometimes share a lot of scary clash examples. Certainly, a lot of Chinese feng shui masters tend to show more of the scary kind of clashes because, yes, clashes can be scary. A lot of car accidents, a lot of breakups, for example, where marriages, relationships fall apart, endings, things of that sort happen during clash because clash is really the epitome of life because life happens, right? Nobody lives in a cave in a silo. Um, and so I love this beautiful quote by Darwin, the world would not be inherited by the strongest, but by those who are most able to change. So if you know you have a clash coming into June, and there's more I want to say about this in a few slides later, this is going to be such a beautiful opening for you to prepare for 2026, okay? So here is an example of a client of mine I just wanted to share. She's been a client of mine for over 10 years. And I met her when she was in this luck, when she was between 22 to 32. And you can see that she is born on the day of the pig. Okay. And when she turned 22, she's in the luck of the snake. So if you've been following my Chinese New Year talk and all the talks of 2025, you know that the snake and the pig are a clash. So that means this young woman from age 22 to 32 was in a 10-year clash. And I wanted to share with you what kind of clashes happen to regular people, that's not Blake Lively or James Comey. So this is the time when she met someone, right? Because this is the day pillar. She met somebody, fell in love, started a relationship, got married. And then this was also when they broke up, okay? And it was a very, very painful breakup. A lot of disruption, a lot of chaos. Then they got back together, okay? Got back together and got married again, remarried the second time, and had a baby, first child in their relationship. And then by the end of this 10-year clash, they broke up again. So that all happened within the span of 10 years. And I'm only touching on the relationship. There's a lot of things that were going on as well in the professional life, but I wanted to focus on the relationship part. So that's what a clash can happen. Obviously, when you're talking about getting married and divorcing and getting married again and having a baby, that comes with a lot of changes: houses, renovation, schools, commuting, money, health, in-laws, right? So it encompasses all kinds of madness. But now she is in this luck. Okay, so it's a lot better because she is done with that 10-year clash. But so if you are yourself in a 10-year clash and you're thinking, my goodness, when is this going to end? You can actually see in your own BaZi chart when that's going to be done. But we want to make the most out of it, right? Because remember, these characters are fixed. This is your blueprint. This is the deck of cards handed to you, right? And so your human will, and you have beautiful and infinite tools available: counseling, therapy, yoga, spirituality, church, God, friends, right? All the things to help you make the most of that time. So if you're in a clash, whether that's 2025, June, all right, make the most of it. Okay. All right. So this is, did you guys know that the story of the bull and the cow? Give me, I don't know. I can't, I'm asking you like we're in person, but the bull in real life, when there is a storm, they actually run towards the storm. Whereas the cow, they turn around and they run away from the storm. But eventually the storm catches up to the cow and they've been running all this time. And the bull facing the storm actually is both a metaphor and a literal teaching of how we are as humans. So if you're also going through something difficult and you can foresee something right ahead, it's so much better to confront it head on, because the time that you would spend in the storm is far less than running away. Because guess what? Eventually the storm catches up. right? So this is the same integration thought to how you take care of your health, right? So you know, if you eat sugar and cake and don't work out and have a negative mindset, you know that it will lead to nothing good, whether that's diabetes and it leads to heart disease and depression and other stuff. But you just keep running away from it rather than facing it head on, going to the doctor, getting on a health plan, doing hard things like not eating sugar and being in a better dietary plan and actually moving your body, going to the gym or whatever, right? So that's the message I just want to leave as a reminder, okay? Because like I said, June is going to push and prod us in many different ways based on our own chart. Obviously, I don't know everybody's chart that watched this, but that's the general theme of the energy of June. So be the bull. All right. There's some questions here. I just want to check. All right. Okay, so Nobleman. All right, so if you were born in the year ending 1, okay, or you were born on the day of yin metal like this, then June is your Nobleman month. And we know what Nobleman is all about. But as I've said in the past, God is not a vending machine. Okay, Nobleman offers us a time of redirection and course correction, as well as protection. Okay, so take advantage of that. But I also wanted to touch on the horse also carries another meaning called peach blossom. So if you were born in the year of the snake, rooster, or ox, okay, so you can see, all right, or if you were born on the day of the snake, rooster, and ox, so you have to look at your BaZi chart to know this, then June is your peach blossom. And peach blossom is all about people, relationship, love, friendships, forgiveness, reconciliation, social circles, being a little bit more extroverted, saying yes to events, putting yourself out there. If you're single, it's time to mingle. If you miss someone, call them, set up a coffee date. Peach Blossom is an opportunity to connect. Okay. And it's not always about romance, right? Because there are many forms of relationships, right? So if you've been married for 100 years, but it's your peach blossom, it's a good little blip to just say, what do I enjoy about my partner? What can we, implement in our routine that still spark, kind of like that butterfly, right? Um, and if you're not interested in dating, but you've been busy, maybe you've been traveling, maybe you've been handling other things and you haven't had much friend time, well, Peach Blossom is a beautiful time to reconnect. I have a lot of clients that get proposals on a peach blossom day, like they get engaged on a peach blossom day and they don't even know it. It's like what inspires them intuitively to choose that day? And we may sometimes say, oh, because it's Valentine's Day or something or another, but there's a reason why it's happening in that particular season, in that particular year, in that particular time. So there's an opportunity here, guys, to come into June and to just love on your people. Okay, so just love, love, love them. All right. And I wanted to show you this fun uh example of when love happens. So this is Kate Middleton's BaZi chart, okay? And her peach blossom stars are, based on her chart, is the horse and the rooster. And you see she was born in the year of the rooster, so she was already born with a peach blossom star. So she is naturally very charismatic, very charming, very likable, and can also signify fame, easy to make friends, easy to get popular, etc. And she actually met Prince William in 2002, which was the year of the horse. that meaning the horse year was her whole peach blossom year. So that was the year she met him, her future husband, right? And started courting, started dating, right? So oftentimes when people ask me, when am I going to meet my person? When am I going to, whatever, the thing that people ask about when it comes to relationship, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for peach blossom energy. And you see here, which is super interesting when we put her chart next to Prince William side by side here in a second. So she's not quite 48 yet. She is 43 years old. So she's still in the middle of this luck. But when she turns 48, you see she enters into the 10-year horse luck, which is a 10-year peach blossom, right? So 10 years of peach blossom is going to magnify her charm and charisma and her fame. So maybe as we get closer to the horse energy, she becomes queen. All right. So when you look at Prince William, so this is her hubby. So Prince William's peach blossoms are rabbit. Oh, why did I say rabbit and rabbit? Oops. You see, we're doing this live, y'all. Hold, please. Let me share my screen again. Can you see my screen? Okay. So his peach blossom stars are rat and rabbit. Okay. Rat and rabbit. And guess what? They got married in 2011, which was the year of the rabbit. Rabbit, peach blossom, get married. You see? Now remember, in relationship, it's two people. So that's why it's important to understand the BaZi chart of your partner, your business partner, your lover, your friend, because we're all sharing, right? We're sharing energy all the time. So even though the rabbit is not Kate Middleton's peach blossom, it was Prince William's peach blossom. So he gets to share that with her. And similarly, so Prince William is 43, almost, not yet. He's going to turn 43 this month. So he's still in this luck cycle right here. But look, when he turns 50, this is the 10-year luck of the rat, his peach blossom. So very similar to Kate Middleton when she turns 48 and then he turns 50, they're both in their 10-year peach blossom. King and queen? Perhaps, perhaps. All right. Finally, I want to say something about June. When you learn BaZi very well and you come to master BaZi very, very well, you actually can calculate these windows of opportunities. That's why we can use it to predict the future. Of course, we can't see everything, you know what I mean? But it gives you this window of opportunity to understand what's ahead. So this June is a preview to 2026. Okay, so I really invite you all to be Switzerland or be neutral and objective to your experiences this month, because think of this month as the universe, the elements, God, your guardian angel, whatever, they're trying to communicate something to you about what's ahead. And if you don't regulate your emotions and you start judging your experiences as good and bad, then you've removed yourself from the objectivity of understanding things as a whole. Think of June as like researching, data collection. So as June 5th arrives, you're just going to jot down, oh, I had this conversation with this person. I had this opportunity. Oh, that fell through. I feel moody. I'm cranky. I'm happy, whatever. You're just logging events because then at the end of June, you're going to look back and you're going to assess and say, what was the overall theme of June? Because that's going to be the theme of 2026. So this is the homework that I've actually been giving to a lot of my BaZi clients that have come to see me in the month of May and in June. So that's just a little tidbit for you. Don't forget that we do have BaZi packages, opportunities for you to purchase a BaZi package at like a discounted rate to hold you accountable, to move through whatever you need to move through. Think of it as very similar to coaching, but we're just using BaZi as a tool for coaching. These BaZi packages, they expire 1 year from your purchase, date of your purchase. A lot of my clients do it once every quarter. Okay, so those are the guys that are really doing their homework, and I'm very, very proud of those guys. Gift certificates are also available. And don't forget that we're rolling out the BaZi course back to its original format. I got permission from Master Lo during COVID to obviously arrange the BaZi course into remote, which is it deviates from the format of the school. It's not how we'd like to teach. And it's just time. It's time to bring it back in person because there's a lot of things missed when you're learning things online. For instance, you don't get to go on my whiteboard and actually put the chart and I can see how you're doing the analysis. So that's coming up in June. If you're interested, there's a payment plan available, or if you have any general questions about this course, please reach out. My repeat students obviously are welcome at a reduced tuition rate. Okay, I'm trying to be very mindful of time here. We're doing good. So let's switch gear to Chinese medicine. In the past, I have touched on this before. Whenever there is a rat and horse clash, this affects the lower extremities of our body. And what I mean by that is it starts from your hips all the way to your toes. And from an organs perspective, that would be like your urinary tract, your bladder, things of that nature. And obviously, the legs, the knees, the toes. Okay. So if you have a clash, you have to be very mindful that you don't injure that part of your body. A lot of accidents can happen. For instance, like somebody might sprain their ankle or, break their toe, or they have inflamed joints, knee pain, or suddenly their hip kind of hurts. And so if you already have pre-existing issues, okay, or if you know you're coming up into a clash, these are great time to maybe do extra stretches, to just kind of loosen up the muscles there. See a physical therapist, get adjusted with a chiropractor. Also, from a Chinese medicine perspective, we have a lot of meridian lines that is in the lower extremity of the body. It's intense, so many. So I just want to remind y'all to take care of your lower body, including strength training, right? And I think there's been like a few studies out there that says people who have, strong lower extremities, you avoid injuring your hip, like falling down, especially for the older folks. Okay. So just be mindful of that. And again, anytime there's a severe out of balance of the fire and water, now remember that June is the most powerful fire element. And then 2025 is a fire year. And we don't have a lot of water. We just have this tiny bit of water that makes its way into the month of June. But otherwise, we say that 2025 is a dry water year. So when you have too much of something and very little of something, for instance, we have too much fire and not enough water, right, to create the balance, then we call that maladapted, meaning it's sick, out of balance. And you can begin to start feeling some of these symptoms, depressed, apathetic, kind of like uninterested, I don't care, right? Feeling uninspired, which by the way, should not be the case because 2025 is the year of inspiration, right? The year of spark. So if you're feeling uninspired, you're kind of stuck. You're just kind of looking at a dark whole abyss, then that's a telltale sign that, oh man, I'm not aligned with the energy of the year or the energy of the season, and I need to address that. And because fire is the energy of the body and the mind, our cognitive function, our focus, our ability to memorize things, our ability to be attentive like that. That's the signal of fire. And for women, hormones, whether you're pre-menopause, menopause, or not in those cases, it still affects the blood in the body. So these are just a few things, if you already have a pretty decent self-care routine that you go see an acupuncturist, your natural medicine, Ayurvedic doctor or whatever, perhaps these are some things you should be bringing to them, and to focus on helping to balance, okay, before it gets out of whack. Okay. All right, so I like to give a little tip on acupressure, because these things you can do at home because you have fingers. And if you don't have fingers, you have a pen, a pen. If you don't have a pen, you have a lip gloss you can use to put pressure, apply pressure. So the one meridian point that we want to pay attention to is called kidney 1. This is at the bottom of your foot. May I remind you that the kidney and bladder meridian is ginormous in the body. It begins at the bottom of your foot. It runs all the way up to your inner thighs, to your back, right here, to the back of your shoulder, and sometimes to the neck and the ears. So the meridian line runs very long. Basically, it runs through the entire body from top to bottom. And so we don't want to take this for granted. So if you're feeling a little, you know, freakish, tired, just like, I'm kind of out of sorts. It's a good thing to actually massage or to apply pressure to kidney 1 right here, which is about a third down from your foot. And it's between the second and third toe right here, right? So you can actually see that in your picture. Or get reflexology massage. Feels good to rub your feet. The second one is bladder 52. All right, this is in your lower back. 3 kun just simply means 4 fingers like this, lateral. So that's how you measure it. That's how a lot of people, when they, try to find the points on the body. Now, this is also help, anxiety, and it helps to preserve energy because the heat, and I'm not just talking about temperature heat, because certainly we have a lot of participants in the Southern Hemisphere where it's winter right now. But it's the energy of fire. Okay. So obviously, the divine dynamic energy that comes, which is fire, and then you have an environment where you live, in this case, Arizona or Nevada or California or anywhere, or Dubai, okay, places that are very, very dry, very, very hot, then of course you kind of have a double whammy, right? Because your environment plus the intrinsic invisible force of energy is very, very fiery. Okay. So that's why the central nervous system is in trouble. That's when we're like a little spastic, a little manic, a little anxious. So bladder 52 is very helpful. Again, just to apply pressure and to rub that part of your body. It's good to maybe do it for, a minute or two, 2 or 3 times, and really applying good pressure. Sometimes when you apply the pressure, particularly here in kidney 1, you might actually feel sore. It might feel sore and tender. Okay, so if it does feel sore and tender, then I'm hitting the spot. Okay. Left or right. Okay, so in Chinese medicine, left or right. Left is yin, right is yang. Okay, so there's also meaning to this. If you were to pick which foot, like let's say you wanted to do kidney 1, I suggest using the left foot. Also, if you're going to do bladder 52, also choose the left side of your body because this is the yin. It helps we call it to nourish, to kind of cool, right? To cool down all that heat. And so the left side would be very helpful. Okay. Now, if you do see a Chinese medicine doctor that also mix their own herbs, we're very lucky. I know somebody here in Arizona, but I have a lot of other people in different places in the US, obviously, and some of you in Asia, you have a lot more of a direct connection with people who can concoct herbal medicine, especially tailored to your body and to the season that we're in. So these are just some of the popular herbs that are used in Chinese medicine. And they have, these are like roots, roots, plants, minerals. Some of this is actually a mineral. Um, and you can drink it. They can be powder. You can mix it with water. And they're very helpful, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They're very helpful and very cooling going into the fiery season of the year. So if you're interested to learn more about that, or you feel like, is it just enough to be taking a generic supplement that I get from Whole Foods or Sprouts, you know what I mean? It is generic, right? Because it's the same dose that everybody else is taking. It's the same material, right, that everybody else is taking. But sometimes when you can connect with an expert or a specialist, it can actually tailor and say, you actually only need to drink this for 3 days. You know what I mean? Instead of buying the same supplement over and over again. And because maybe you only need it for 3 days for this month, right? So I am encouraging you to consider that, especially if you're feeling some of the symptoms that I already outlined in this presentation. Now I'm going to quickly graze through feng shui. Okay. We tend to always forget to take care of feng shui, which is not good in a way, because while we can control this, because we live in our bodies and we get first time feedback, like real time feedback, first hand real time feedback. Like, yep, my stomach is painful. Yep, that person and I are arguing, right? So we tend to hyper focus on that, which is fine. But we forget about the feng shui because the house doesn't talk to us. The house doesn't say, hey, Stacy, fix the energy in the bedroom. It's almost like it's just something that you think about as an afterthought. Again, this is a very beautiful wisdom that we shouldn't take for granted because our environment, I mean, think about it. You sleep in your bedroom at least for 6 hours in your most vulnerable state, when you're sleeping. Where you work, you're working there for 8 hours straight. You spend so much energy in that environment alone that you shouldn't neglect taking care of the feng shui of your house. Okay, so take a snapshot of my screen. Okay, the most scary sector this month is in the east. Okay, this is icky poo poo. That's my terminology for the month. Because this 9-5 combination is considered three killings. That's a sachi, it's a negative energy. So look at your house plan. What is in the east side of your house? Is it your front door? Whoa, right? Is it a bathroom? It's a bathroom. Is it my bedroom? Ooh, definitely need to cure. Or is it my spare bedroom that nobody really goes in there? Okay, fine, right? So that's why the weight, and the urgency of these elements, it depends on your floor plan and the function of the space. Okay, that's why I can only make a generic comment here. But make sure you place your cures before June 5th. All right. If you're interested in a full-blown feng shui consultation, you can come and schedule a 15-minute discovery call with me. It's very, very comprehensive, and you will have your floor plan in this format that you can forever reference yourself. So that when you're doing your monthly and annual updates moving forward, you can actually have a proper floor plan that outlines the natal chart for your house. Okay? So talk to me about that. Other than that, we're at the end. And guess what? I did it in 1 hour. Yay, me. So our next talk is July 1st. Okay. So Please, please, please schedule your BaZi. Don't delay. I have so many people lately that are coming in, and I'm like, gosh, I wish we were talking. That we were having more regular conversations so that, we can actually help you, navigate and mitigate some of the things along the way. Hopefully, make things a little bit easier. So, anywho, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Okay. And if you follow me on Instagram every day, I also post the energy of the day. It's just a good little boost, to give you a prompt in how to focus your energy for the day. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm grateful for you. Have the best horsey month, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.